She knocked with full breaths after his wife passed. The cowboy sat alone with a hungry baby. The wind moved slowly across the red dust plains, carrying dry heat and silence across the frontier colony. The cowboy stood outside his small ranch house, staring at the horizon where two suns were setting behind distant hills. The sky glowed with deep orange light, but he barely noticed its beauty anymore. Only weeks had passed since his wife died. The sickness came quickly, and the small frontier clinic could not save her. Since that day, the ranch felt empty, even though the crying of his newborn baby filled the rooms constantly. He had never imagined raising a child alone. The cowboy had survived storms, wild beasts, and long journeys across space, but nothing prepared him for sleepless nights and the quiet pain of loss. He tried his best. Every morning he fed the animals, repaired fences damaged by shifting sands, and checked the old solar panels that powered his home. Between tasks, he rushed back inside whenever the baby cried. The child needed warmth, milk, and comfort, things he struggled to provide alone. Neighbors lived far away, and while some offered help, the cowboy refused to depend on others too much. Pride and grief made him silent. He believed he had to stand strong, the way he always had. That evening felt colder than usual. Dark clouds gathered above the plains, promising a dust storm before nightfall. He finished securing the barn doors and hurried inside, holding the baby carefully in his arms. The child's small fingers curled around his shirt, and for a moment he felt a fragile peace. Then someone knocked. The sound surprised him. Visitors were rare, especially after sunset. He froze, listening carefully. Another knock followed, firm but not aggressive. He moved slowly toward the door, one hand ready near the old blaster hanging beside the frame.
Life on the frontier taught him to be careful. When he opened the door, he saw a woman standing outside.
She looked tired, as if she had traveled far without rest. Dust covered her boots and coat. Her hair moved slightly in the wind, and her eyes held a quiet determination mixed with exhaustion. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she said softly. "I need shelter for the night." The cowboy studied her silently. Strangers often brought trouble. He noticed small details, the way she stood balanced, the faint shine of unfamiliar technology hidden under her clothing. She was not a simple traveler. Before he could answer, the baby began to cry loudly. The woman's gaze shifted immediately toward the child. Something gentle changed in her expression. Without stepping forward too quickly, she spoke in a calm voice. "I can help, if you allow it." But the baby's cries grew stronger, and exhaustion weighed heavily on him. Finally, he stepped aside. "Just for the night," he said. She nodded gratefully and entered the small house. Inside, the ranch felt warm but cluttered. Tools lay on tables, bottles and cloths scattered from rushed attempts at caring for the child. The woman looked around quietly, not judging, only observing. The baby continued crying. She slowly approached, waiting for permission. The cowboy gave a small nod. Her movements were gentle and confident. She adjusted the blanket, held the child carefully, and hummed a soft melody unfamiliar to him. Slowly, the baby calmed. The sudden silence felt almost unreal. "Thank you," he said after a moment, his voice rough from disuse. She smiled faintly. Children understand calm hearts. He did not know how to respond, so he turned toward the kitchen area and prepared simple food. They ate quietly at first, listening to the wind outside. "What brings you this far?" he finally asked. "I travel," she replied, "and sometimes I hide." The answer raised more questions than it solved, but he sensed she would not reveal more yet. He respected silence, so he did not push. Night deepened. The dust storm arrived, shaking the walls and covering the windows with red sand. Inside, the house felt smaller but warmer. She offered to help with small tasks, cleaning bottles, repairing a loose device, adjusting the temperature system. Each action showed skill beyond ordinary settlers. The cowboy watched carefully. She worked with confidence but never tried to take control. Slowly, his tension eased. Later, when the baby slept, they sat near a small heater. The light flickered gently across their faces. "You lost someone," she said quietly. He looked at her sharply. "How do you know?" "I see it in your silence," she replied. He stared at the floor. Speaking about his wife felt heavy, like opening a wound not ready to heal. Yet something about her presence made it easier to breathe. "She was strong," he said finally. "Stronger than me." "She still is," the woman said softly. "Through the child." He said nothing, but her words stayed with him. Days passed quickly after that night. The storm delayed her departure, and he allowed her to stay longer. She helped with the baby, the ranch, and even the animals, which strangely trusted her immediately. For the first time since his wife's passing, laughter returned to the house. Small, quiet moments when the baby smiled or when a stubborn farm drone malfunctioned and they fixed it together. Yet the cowboy never forgot caution. One evening while she was outside, he noticed a small metal object hidden inside her bag. It carried a symbol he did not recognize, a mark shaped like interlocking stars. He had seen similar designs long ago, connected to powerful off-world groups known for searching relentlessly for those who escaped them. A cold feeling settled in his chest. When she returned inside, he studied her more carefully. She noticed his change immediately. "You found something," she said. He did not deny it. "I don't want trouble near my child," he said quietly. She lowered her eyes. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face. "I never meant to bring danger here," she said. But sometimes danger follows no matter where we go. Outside, distant thunder rolled across the sky, not from weather but from engines moving far above the clouds. The cowboy walked toward the window and looked up at the stars. Small lights moved slowly across the darkness, almost invisible unless one knew where to look. Someone was searching. He turned back toward her, realizing that the peaceful days might soon end. Yet when the baby began to cry again, she moved gently to comfort the child, and he saw not an enemy or a stranger, but someone who understood loneliness as deeply as he did. And for the first time since losing his wife, he felt the fragile beginning of hope, even as danger approached from the stars. The next morning, the frontier sky glowed pale orange, signaling another scorching day on the distant plains. The cowboy woke first, as usual, to check the baby and the animals. He moved quietly, careful not to wake the woman who had stayed the night. Though he had only known her for a day, her presence already felt natural, as if she belonged to the ranch in some way. The baby stirred and cried softly. The woman appeared from the kitchen holding a small bottle of milk. She handed it to him with a calm smile. "You need rest," she said. "I can handle this." "I can't. Not yet." Her eyes softened. "You've been through more than most could survive. Let someone help." For the first time, he allowed a small flicker of trust. He handed the baby over, and she soothed the child with gentle motions, whispering a soft tune that seemed to calm both the baby and him. After feeding, she helped clean up and organize the scattered supplies around the ranch. She moved with quiet efficiency, repairing a broken panel on the solar collector and adjusting the water purifier. The cowboy watched her hands steady and skilled, as if she had been trained for a life far from the dusty plains. "You know your way around machines?" he said. "Some of us have to," she replied lightly. "Traveling across space teaches many lessons." He said nothing, focusing instead on the child's cries. There was a pause, and then a faint sound. A small beep outside, almost hidden beneath the wind. He had learned long ago to notice small irregularities in the environment. Machines and scanners often gave signals that could mean danger or opportunity. "Please say..." He slipped outside, motioning for the woman to stay inside with the baby. A tiny scout drone hovered just above the dunes, its shape metallic and unfamiliar. Its lights pulsed slowly, scanning the land. He drew the old rifle from its stand, its mechanisms worn but reliable. Carefully, he aimed and fired. The drone exploded in a small flash, sending red dust into the air. The woman appeared behind him, calm but alert. "You did it quickly," she said. "Few can act that fast." "They're looking for you," he said bluntly. "Whoever sent this drone knows where you are. I feared they would follow me here. I never meant to bring trouble to your ranch." "Trouble finds its way. That's what life on the frontier teaches." They returned inside, the baby still asleep. For a moment, silence fell between them. The weight of what had happened pressed against their shoulders. Neither spoke for a while. Then she began explaining quietly, almost reluctantly. "I'm from a distant system," she said. "A place where control is more important than compassion. I refused to follow their rules, so I escaped." The cowboy leaned against the wall, listening carefully. He did not interrupt, though his mind raced with questions. Who were they? Why did they want her? And why did it matter to him now? "I never asked for this life," she continued. "I just wanted freedom, safety, peace." He watched her. There was no arrogance, no boasting. Only a quiet honesty that was rare in a world built on survival and lawlessness. "You're safe here," he he said at last. For now. That means more than you know. The day passed slowly, filled with small tasks. They worked together to repair fences, check water systems, and care for the animals. The baby smiled when either of them approached, and the cowboy felt a strange warmth, the first in weeks. As the afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, he noticed something else. The horizon was not empty. Small glimmers moved far away, like distant stars on the ground. They were ships, sleek and metallic, but moving with a purpose. Someone was coming. He motioned for the woman to follow him outside.
"They're scouts," he said quietly. "We need to prepare." She studied the sky carefully, her eyes narrowing.
We can defend if needed, but they will not stop unless we face them. He frowned. I have fought bandits, wild beasts, even storms across unknown planets. But they're different. They're afraid of people like us, she said. They underestimate what can be done with courage and quick thinking. He hesitated, thinking of the baby asleep inside. He had to protect this home, protect the child. Not again. The woman nodded. Then we fight together. Old tools became traps. Ranch drones were reprogrammed as alarms. Fences were reinforced. Every small advantage was used to protect the home. Even the animals seemed to sense the tension, moving quietly around the house. By the time darkness fell, the stars shone brightly overhead. The small fleet of approaching ships glinted like silver among the distant clouds. Their lights scanned the desert carefully, looking for any sign of life. The child slept inside, unaware of the approaching danger. They expect easy prey, she whispered. They will find something else. He glanced at her. You have been through worse than this. Perhaps. But this is different. I care about this place.
About him.
He understood. Their bond was growing, not because of force or desire, but out of shared responsibility and trust. The first scout ship moved closer. Its sensors scanned the area, sending out a faint pulse. The cowboy tightened his grip on the rifle, and she adjusted one of the defensive systems on the roof. Then, suddenly, one of the drones they had hidden earlier exploded in a small flash, sending a signal of warning across the desert. The ships paused, scanning, searching. Good, the woman said. Now they know we're ready. The cowboy looked at her, respect growing. You're strong, he said simply. We're both strong, she corrected, and together we can survive this. Hours passed. The ships did not attack immediately, perhaps cautious, perhaps testing. The wind whispered across the dunes, carrying red dust into the night. They took turns keeping watch, speaking little, sharing small glances that said more than words could. The baby awoke briefly, and she moved inside to soothe the child. The cowboy watched her gently rock the baby, whispering soft words that made the child smile. He realized then that this stranger had become part of his life, maybe more than he was ready to admit. A faint alarm sounded from one of the perimeter sensors. One ship had moved closer, scanning the ground, almost within range. The cowboy raised his rifle instinctively. The woman moved beside him, adjusting a small device that created a shield of invisible energy. Barely visible, but strong enough to confuse sensors. The ship passed, its lights scanning, then moved on, unsure of the signal. They let out quiet breaths together. That was close, the cowboy said. Too close, she replied. But it proves something. We can defend this home. Together, he nodded, feeling a rare certainty. For the first time since losing his wife, he felt that he was not alone, not only because of her presence, but because someone else, someone who understood strength, survival, and care, shared the burden of protecting the child. Night grew deeper. The stars burned brightly, alien constellations twisting above. The wind calmed, and a strange peace fell over the desert. The child slept soundly, unaware of the dangers hovering just beyond the horizon. The cowboy and the woman stood side by side, looking out at the distant fleet. For a brief moment, the universe seemed vast but manageable. Together, they could face anything. Storms, scouts, or strangers from far-off systems. And as they returned inside to the warm light of the ranch, he realized that this night had changed everything. The frontier was dangerous, the stars held secrets, and life remained uncertain. But he had found an ally, someone who would fight, watch, and care alongside him. Someone who had come into his life at exactly the right time, and that thought, stronger than fear, gave him hope. Dawn broke slowly over the desert, casting pale light across the red dunes. The cowboy woke first, as usual, checking the baby and the animals. The wind was cooler than last night, carrying the scent of dust and distant rocks. He moved quietly, careful not to wake the woman who had stayed near the fire, adjusting small devices that hummed softly. They had spent the night planning. The fleet that had appeared over the horizon yesterday would return. He knew it. Scouts were patient, calculating, and dangerous. But for the first time since his wife's passing, he did not feel completely alone. The woman stirred and looked at him. "They will be here soon," she said softly. "Are you ready?" He nodded. "We can't let them take this home." "Or the baby?" Her gaze softened.
"No, we fight together."
They prepared quietly. Every trap, every sensor, every small advantage was checked again. The cowboy adjusted old solar panels to create reflective flashes that could blind approaching scouts. She reinforced the small walls with portable energy barriers, almost invisible but strong enough to stop small craft or projectiles. The baby slept peacefully inside, oblivious to the danger gathering just beyond the dunes. The cowboy felt a sharp protective instinct. This child, small and fragile, had given him purpose again. He would not fail. By mid-morning, faint lights appeared on the horizon. The fleet had returned. Larger ships now, scanning the desert with slow, deliberate sweeps. The cowboy and the woman moved to their positions on the roof, eyes fixed on the approaching danger. "They expect us to panic," she said quietly. "They do not know the frontier."
They do not know people like us. He gave a small nod.
"They will learn." The first scout ship moved in close. Its sensors detected the ranch, and lights flashed in a slow pattern. The cowboy aimed his rifle. She adjusted a small device beside him, activating the energy shield. When the ship fired a scanning beam, the shield reflected it back, confusing its sensors. The scout spun, trying to regain its bearings. The cowboy fired a warning shot, not to destroy, but to make them cautious. The desert echoed with the sound, and dust swirled around them. "It works," she said, a faint smile crossing her face. "They're thinking twice." But more ships were coming, larger, faster, and clearly ready for confrontation. The cowboy gritted his teeth. He had faced bandits, wild beasts, and storms that could crush a house, but these were not simple threats. These were organized, disciplined, and patient. "They'll test every angle," he muttered. "They always do," she replied. "But the frontier is ours to defend." They moved quickly, checking traps, adjusting devices, and reinforcing the barriers. Even small machines, once intended for mundane ranch tasks, were repurposed as alarms and obstacles. One small drone hovered near the barn, ready to alert them to movement in the dunes. The sun rose higher, turning the desert into a sea of red and gold. The fleet advanced slowly, scanning for any sign of life. Their first attack was careful, precise. Small pulses of energy meant to test the ranch's defenses. The cowboy fired at one pulse, hitting it accurately. It fizzled harmlessly in the air. Another shot was deflected by the woman's shield. "Good work," she said. "Keep steady." Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the baby's occasional cries. Each movement outside could be a threat, each sound a signal of approaching danger. The cowboy and the woman moved with quiet coordination, instinctively reading each other's actions. During a brief pause, the cowboy noticed her hands were steady, not trembling. Her eyes, alert and calculating, scanned the horizon with an understanding that went beyond ordinary survival. "You've done this before," he said quietly. "More times than I can count," she replied. "But never for a home like this. Not for someone to protect." She was not just a stranger. She was a protector, a companion in ways that words could not fully describe. Then, a sudden movement caught their eyes. A larger ship broke from the formation, approaching at higher speed. Its sensors were focused directly on the ranch. "They're going to strike," the woman said, voice tense but calm. "Then we hit back," the cowboy replied. They acted quickly. The small reflective panels on the roof angled toward the sun, sending bright flashes into the ship's sensors, temporarily blinding it. Simultaneously, small devices released nets and obstacles across the ground, creating confusion for any drones or smaller craft accompanying it. The ship's sensors flickered, searching for a clear target. The cowboy fired carefully, aiming at exposed mechanisms. Sparks flew. The larger ship slowed, then veered off course. "Nice work," she said, her smile fleeting but real. He allowed himself a small nod, then returned his attention to the horizon. More ships loomed, but each maneuver they executed made the enemy hesitate. The cowboy realized something important. The frontier was not only a place of isolation and struggle, it was a place where cleverness and courage mattered as much as firepower. By late afternoon, the fleet began to retreat slowly, testing the boundaries but avoiding a direct strike. They were cautious now, aware that the ranch was not an easy target. Inside, the baby slept soundly, and the cowboy allowed himself a rare moment of relief. The woman leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from her brow.
"They underestimated us," she said.
"They always do," he replied.
"But we've made them think twice." The day faded into evening. The desert glowed under the twin suns as they set, painting the sky with gold and red streaks.
The ranch stood intact, a small island of life amidst a vast, dangerous wilderness. The cowboy felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not blind hope, but careful, earned hope. They had survived this day together, using skill, courage, and trust. The woman approached him quietly, glancing at the sleeping baby. "You've built something worth protecting," she said softly. "And you've helped me see that I'm not alone," he replied. For the first time since losing his wife, he allowed himself to believe that perhaps life could continue. Perhaps the baby could grow up with a family, not just a survivor. Night fell. The stars stretched endlessly above, alien constellations shining brightly. The desert was calm now, but the cowboy and the woman remained vigilant. They had faced danger today and survived, but the frontier never stayed quiet for long. The baby stirred and cried softly. She moved to soothe the child again, her voice gentle and reassuring. He watched her, feeling a quiet gratitude. Together they had weathered the first wave of threats. Together they would face whatever came next. And for the first time in months, he felt a sense of possibility. The ranch was more than a home now. It was a promise, a place where life could continue, where bonds could be rebuilt, and where courage could protect those who mattered most. The cowboy stood outside briefly, looking at the stars. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the fleet waited. They would return, no doubt, but he no longer feared them as much. With the woman by his side and the child in their care, he felt ready to face whatever the frontier or the stars could throw at them. As he returned inside, he realized that survival alone was no longer enough. He had something more: companionship, purpose, and the fragile beginnings of family. And that, he knew, made all the difference. The next morning, the desert was calm, the wind soft against the red sands. The cowboy woke first, as usual, checking on the baby before stepping outside. The plains stretched endlessly, empty and quiet, but he knew danger could return at any time. His eyes scanned the horizon, alert and patient. The woman emerged from inside, holding a cup of water for him. "They will come again," she said softly. "We must be ready. We've survived so far. We can do it again. This place, it's worth protecting, but maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's time we stop just surviving." He considered her words. For months he had only focused on survival. Keeping the baby fed, keeping the ranch intact, keeping grief at bay. He had not thought of hope beyond the next danger. Yet, looking at her, seeing her calm strength and care for the child, he realized she was right. They could fight, yes, but they could also live. They spent the morning preparing the ranch again, checking traps, repairing shields, and reinforcing walls. Every tool and machine was examined, every weakness accounted for. They moved efficiently, silently communicating through glances and gestures learned from shared experience. By midday, distant hums echoed across the desert. The fleet had returned. This time it was larger, more organized, and more determined. Scout ships scanned carefully, while larger craft hovered far above, waiting for a weakness. The cowboy and the woman took positions on the roof. The baby was inside, wrapped in blankets, peacefully asleep. They could not risk harm to the child. "They expect us to fear them," she said quietly. "They do not understand what humans on the frontier can do." "I've learned that," he replied, gripping his rifle. "They underestimate what people will fight for." The first ship moved close, scanning aggressively. He fired a warning shot, then adjusted his aim as the woman activated the energy shield. Sparks and small explosions lit the dust around them. The ship spun, confused by the traps and reflections, giving them a temporary advantage. Other ships followed, testing their defenses. Each move, each flash of light was calculated. The cowboy and the woman coordinated seamlessly, blending frontier ingenuity with her advanced knowledge. Nets, barriers, reflective panels, and alarms worked together like a single machine. The fleet tested, probed, and retreated, but never fully attacked. The cowboy noticed that each failed attempt made the fleet hesitate more, their pilots unsure of what lay hidden in the desert. "They are learning," he said. "Yes," she replied, "but they have not learned everything. Not yet." During a short break, they returned inside to check on the baby. He smiled at the child's small, peaceful face. The woman adjusted the blankets and brushed the hair from the child's forehead. "You've done well," he said quietly. "So have you," she replied. "We've done this together." He looked at her. "I didn't think I could trust anyone like this again. It's earned, and you've earned mine." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of the past months pressing on them, but also the faint warmth of hope. By late afternoon, the fleet approached again. The cowboy and the woman prepared for the final confrontation. Every trap, every device, every small advantage was ready. The first wave of ships moved in aggressively, firing pulses meant to test the shields. The cowboy fired precisely, hitting critical mechanisms. The woman adjusted the energy shields, deflecting pulses and confusing sensors. Sparks and flashes lit the red desert like lightning during a storm. The baby stirred briefly, and she moved to calm the child, whispering a tune that seemed to settle even the harsh sounds outside. The cowboy felt a surge of protectiveness. Nothing could harm this home, not while they were together. A larger ship approached directly, larger and more menacing than any before. Its sensors focused on the ranch, scanning for weaknesses. "They want a direct strike," the woman said. "Then we give them one they won't expect," he replied. Together they executed their plan. The reflective panels sent blinding flashes into the ship's sensors. Hidden nets and obstacles on the ground created confusion for smaller drones. The energy shields deflected pulses and carefully aimed shots from the cowboy disabled exposed systems. The ship faltered, spinning slightly, then retreated. Other ships followed, realizing the ranch was not an easy target. Hesitation spread among the fleet. The cowboy and the woman moved efficiently, using every trick they had prepared. The desert itself became an ally, every dune and ridge working to hide and protect them. By evening, the fleet had pulled back to the horizon. They hovered, watching, but did not attempt another direct strike. The cowboy exhaled slowly, tension leaving his body. "It's over," he said quietly. "Not forever," she replied, "but they've learned respect." The baby slept peacefully. The cowboy looked around the small ranch, at the repaired walls, the humming machines, and the quiet desert beyond. For the first time he felt not fear, but relief and possibility. The woman moved beside him. "You've built more than a ranch," she said. "You've built a home. And a family." He looked at her, and then at the child. "Yes, a family," he said. The desert grew quiet, stars appearing in the sky above, alien constellations shining like scattered diamonds. The frontier, dangerous and unpredictable, seemed calmer tonight. The wind whispered softly, and for the first time in months, the cowboy felt peace. He realized that survival alone was no longer enough. He had found companionship, trust, and purpose again. The baby was safe, and the woman who had arrived unexpectedly had become part of their lives. Together, they could face any danger, any challenge, any future the stars might bring. That night, they sat together near the fire. The baby slept between them, small hands curled gently. Outside, the desert was quiet, but the cowboy felt ready. The frontier could send storms, raiders, or distant fleets. He would meet them all with courage. But now he had more than courage. He had hope. "We've done well," she said. He nodded, watching the child. "Better than I imagined. Together we can do anything." The fire flickered, the wind whispered softly, and the stars above burned steadily. Life would continue, not just surviving but living, and for the first time in a long time, the cowboy believed in the future. The desert was still wild, the stars still distant, but the ranch was more than a place. It was home. It was family. And together, they had found strength, hope, and the beginnings of a new life. The baby stirred, opening bright eyes that reflected the starlight. She cooed softly, and the cowboy felt a warmth that had been absent for too long. The woman leaned close, smiling at the small life between them. "We're ready for whatever comes next," she said softly. "Yes," he agreed. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." And in the quiet desert night, with alien stars watching above, the cowboy, the woman, and the baby began the next chapter of their lives, together, safe and strong.